There are growing calls for Justin Welby to resign over his handling of the most prolific abuser in the Church of England. Hi, welcome to the channel. My name is Rev Dan. I'm a vicar in the Church of England. On this channel, you'll get all my views as a parish priest and all the Christian news happening in the world today. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment down below, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. The mainstream media is full of headlines about the call for Justin Welby to quit over his handling of John Smyth, who was probably the most prolific child abuser in the Church of England over 4 decades and in 3 countries, abusing up to 130 children, maybe 115, but definitely between that number, across 3 countries, here in England or in the UK, over in Zimbabwe, and then finally in South Africa. It was brought to Justin Welby's attention back in 2013 when he was Archbishop. He's admitted that did come across his desk. I think it was a verbal report. He didn't handle it as he should have. Smyth went on to other countries to abuse children in Zimbabwe and South Africa. Actually, more children than in England. It's about 30 children that he abused in England. But there's still that could have been stopped. I just want to say at the start, it should never got up to 2013. It should never have got to this point. He was abusing back in the 70s and 80s, and this was known in certain circles. A report was written about him in the early 80s and sent to about 6 or 7 people, but never really made it out of that group. It should have stopped then. This man, who was a horrific abuser, should have been stopped back in the early 80s, and this would never have come to light in 2013 on the Archbishop's desk. It should have been an historic case which the church should have learnt from and never have got this far. But it did, and because it did, it came to Justin Welby in 2013, but he did not take the appropriate action, which he has said in a Channel 4 interview that he didn't, and he has apologised for that. But like I said, the newspaper articles are full of headlines, and Twitter as well, or X as it is now called, is full of people calling for the Archbishop to resign over this. We know that he's going to retire as late as January 2026 because that's when he turns 70. And people are saying, look, don't announce your retirement in the next few weeks. Take integrity over your failing over this and resign now on this so we can all learn and it becomes a big thing. The other thing to say in this is there's a danger, because it's not just Justin Welby here. There are many other people involved in the mishandling of this when it could have been stopped a long time ago and after 2013 when it was disclosed to Justin Welby, that need to stand up as well and account for their actions in this. Some of them have passed away, but some of them are still alive. We can't just put it on the Archbishop of Canterbury for his mistake. There have been mistakes for a long time. It was talked about back in the 70s when he was abusing young boys. And so from the 70s until even present day, there has to be accountability for all, and not the Archbishop of Canterbury made a scapegoat and everyone hides behind that, because that's what really can happen, can't it? He resigns or is forced to resign, and then everybody else has gone, well, that's in the media, that's the headlines now, and nothing comes for them. We know as Christians that we all have to go before the judgment seat of God, and we will not be able to lie to him. He knows our hearts, and so it is better to repent now and admit what was done wrong. Yes, we understand, and I understand the way people understood safeguarding things have changed over time. And back in the 70s and 80s, it might have been one way of thinking. But those people who are still alive today have understood safeguarding, have understood how it has changed. And, that's no reason to say, well, it was just 40 years ago. Yes, it was different then. Even Justin Welby said that in his interview with Channel 4, saying in 2013 there was one person doing safeguarding in the whole of Church of England, and they were half-time, they were part-time. But now there are over 40 safeguarding leads, I think, across the country. Yes, it has changed. And again, under Justin Welby, safeguarding has got better. But as the leader of the Church of England, and when something comes onto your desk, it has to be accountable, because we are accountable in our parish churches as well. And it feels a lot of pressure. Safeguarding is a great worry. If a safeguarding issue comes up, you want to deal with that straight away, and you want to make sure that that person stopped. But you're also understanding, did we get this right? Did we make sure that we've got everything in place? And what could be the pushback on myself as the head of safeguarding in my local church? And we have a parish safeguarding officer in every church, but I'm the lead in my church, in my parish, in my benefice. And have I got this right? Did I miss anything? Will I get in trouble for this because I haven't got something quite right? And that is a genuine worry, because we do want to get it right. And I think safeguarding, and I say this quite a lot, safeguarding in parishes and the local churches is really good now. It's come a long way, and it's trying to make it harder for people to come in to abuse others, which is absolutely wrong. The knowledge of safeguarding is really good. This Sunday is a Safeguarding Sunday, where we even have elements in the church service, or some will have the whole service looking at safeguarding. We have reports in our church every couple of months, or twice a year, for the safeguarding officer to come into our church and highlight what safeguarding is, and remind our congregation it's all our responsibility. We have reports every couple of months when we have our PCC, our leadership meeting, about safeguarding. It's always on the agenda. We know where we are with safeguarding. Safeguarding is really good in the local parish, and that makes it all the more disappointing that we see this. It's my responsibility, and if something happens, I have to take account for what I might or might not have done, got wrong, and got right. And that's where we now look at Justin Welby, and this is why there's a lot of anger out there as well, because he's admitted being wrong. He's asked if he was going to resign, and he said, no, I thought about it, I've taken advice, and I'm not going to resign. But here's just a few of the headlines that are out there. Pressure grows on Welby to resign as Archbishop of Canterbury for ignoring sex abuse of the Church of England's most prolific abuser, who targeted more than 100 children and young men. Fury as Justin Welby helped cover up crimes by Church of England's most prolific abuser, who targeted more than 100 children and young men. Justin Welby under growing pressure to resign over serial abuser. Archbishop of Canterbury refuses to resign over child abuse cover-up. The Church of England has lost its way. There is only one route back. Justin Welby faces mounting pressure to resign after damning church abuse scandal report. Church of England head Justin Welby under pressure to resign amid abuse scandal. These headlines are crazy. Archbishop of Canterbury has lost confidence of clergy after abuse review. Justin Welby facing growing calls to resign over Church of England sex abuser. Welby faces pressure to resign over church abuse scandal. So these are from right wing, you would say, Telegraph, Daily Mail. They're from left wing. You've got the Independent, slightly left. You've got the Guardian, the BBC. It's across a range, and Twitter is awash with people calling for him to resign. And let's look at the level of safeguarding responsibility for us. I remember speaking to a friend a few years ago who was in the Diocese of London, and if you're in the Diocese of London, you can confirm this in the comments below. There's this conversation between me and that person who said that they were told that if they didn't have safeguarding on the front page of their website, they would be in trouble. So the safeguarding tab or link had to be clearly visible on the front page of their website, else they would be in trouble. That was a conversation between. That's what that person was telling me, and whether or not that is true, but it can be confirmed. I'm not saying that was a bad thing as well. I'm not saying it's bad. When we take safeguarding seriously, then it's a carrot in the stick. Get it on the front. We need every church to be up there because safeguarding is so serious. But if you're the lead person in your church and you haven't taken responsibility for that, what that person is saying is that we can get in trouble for doing that. So if you can get in trouble for not having safeguarding on the front page, let's put it in context. with an archbishop saying, I knew this and I got this wrong. The other example, and this happened, and I know this situation, a person who I know got a clergy disciplinary measure against them because a friend who was in an abusive relationship wrote a letter, a long letter, and gave it to them. And they read it, and they didn't see the safeguarding concern. They even gave it to their spouse to read because they were all friends and had permission of that person to give it to them to read. The spouse read it, didn't see the safeguarding concerns, said, I was too close to the situation, I knew the person too well, I wasn't reading it with those eyes on. A few months later, that exact same letter went to somebody else in the church who read that letter and saw safeguarding issues in there and reported those safeguarding issues. Once it got into the process, this person who I know had a clergy disciplinary measure brought against them because they were given a letter with safeguarding issues in which they did not see, and eventually got, let's say, found guilty and had something put against them. Was this person right? Well, in one sense, in a strict sense, if there's safeguarding issues and you missed it, then yeah. But was it harsh? It was also, there were many nuances. But what I'm trying to say here is this person who I know missed something and was later disciplined for that, even though they said, well, I didn't see it at the time, I was too close. They said, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. And now you need to learn. That affects that person. Always on their file. All the time. If they ever want to move anywhere to a different role, that's always going to follow them. It's always going to be there. It's always going to be read for that mistake, that oversight from them. But again, I use that in the context of Justin Welby admitting that he knew, but he didn't follow up, and he made a mistake, and he made an apology, but won't resign. And this is why many people, clergy in local parishes who know the amount of safeguarding work that we have to do, the standard that we have to bring it to, and the accountability that is on us, will look and say, what's happening here? How can this just go on? And it's okay. So let's take the Archbishop for an example. So he's admitted making a mistake, like this person that I know who had a clergy disciplinary measure brought against them, had to go through that and eventually got found guilty. So is there going to be a clergy disciplinary measure brought against the Archbishop of Canterbury because he's admitted that he failed and he's done wrong? So that surely, following what we all have to go through and the potential that could come against us, and there is an actual case with this person that I know for failing to disclose something and follow up, had to face the consequences. So is that the same standard that we are all under, not just parish priests, but the bishops and the archbishops as well? So that would be an interesting thing to see. But like I said, safeguarding in parishes is good, but there's this, it feels like a disconnect as well between the local parishes and what's happening as you go up. You got what happened at General Synod last year with the Independent Safeguarding Board being fired by the Archbishop's Council back in June, and there was a huge issues and anger at the General Synod in July with people speaking about this and wanting to understand what's happening. Many questions were asked what was happening. Safeguarding in the Church of England has not been right, and a lot of people will say that, and there's a lot of work to go. It probably does need to go independent. It's too much work to be done in-house. It needs to be separate so they can look in and help us better rather than being within the Church of England. That's just a personal opinion, because it just looks like they do good work. They really do good work. I'm not saying that they don't do good work, but it just seems now might be the time that safeguarding in the Church of England, because of, especially as I've been following this over the last 18 months, it just needs to be brought up to a standard so people can have confidence in this. The big thing in this as well, and we have to remember this hugely, is that safeguarding victims, people who have been abused, they're the ones who are going to be feeling the most let down, the most vulnerable. They've been through such horrendous circumstances in their lives, and we know it's not just what happened to them at the time, which is just horrendous and it should never happen, but it unfortunately has. It's the continuation of being let down. That's how they feel. They're being let down. All these reports come out, all these things happen in the Church of England regarding safeguarding, and it's those who are the ones who are feeling let down, because the church should be accountable to itself, but especially to them. So there's lots of issues, as it were, lots of other things going on. It's not just this one thing. There's a whole load of things. Like I say, if you look at this from a parish point of view, we are trying really hard with safeguarding, and that has to be the same across all the levels. So let's just take the Daily Mail article, who is looking at the people who are calling for Justin Welby to resign over this. And like I said before, this should never have got on his desk. It should have been stopped before, and those other people need to be accountable, and we need to make sure that that's not forgotten. And this comes from the conservative evangelical camp. I'm an evangelical, but we have to stand up where we have failed. Yes, again, that was 40 years ago, and things have changed. But we still have to have accountability. We can't get away with this because, like I said before, we all have to stand before the judgment seat of God and make an account. So, we let's repent here. It's far better to repent and admit our wrongdoings here on earth before we even get there. A petition has been put out and signed by Robert Thompson and Marcus Walker and Ian Poole, all on General Synod and with different theological leanings as well. But this is what I've said before on this channel. It is really telling that even though we might disagree on same-sex blessings and be absolutely in two different camps and calling for different structures within the Church of England, well, the more the Orthodox are, the Liberals want us together. But that aside, on issues like this, on issues like safeguarding, those divisions go, because we are all saying, we're all singing from the same hymn sheet. It's a good Christian church saying, and they've come together and done a petition online, currently sitting on 3,350 signatures, 1,129 have signed today. If you want to sign that, that is linked down below. So the petition was launched, and in the article it says Robert Thompson is saying, given his role in allowing abuse to continue, we believe that his continuing as the Archbishop of Canterbury is no longer tenable. With sadness, we do not think there is an alternative to his immediate resignation if the process of change and healing is to start now. And it says, as signatures and online attacks on the bishop from Clergy mounted, the Church of England lead bishop on safeguarding, Bishop of Stepney, Dr. Joanna Grenfell, and this was really telling on this, yesterday spoke on BBC Channel 4's flagship religious news programme Sunday. To the surprise of veteran presenter Ed Sturton, she notably failed several times to say the Archbishop should stay in post in the wake of the scandal. Asked directly by the broadcaster whether Archbishop Welby should resign or not, Bishop Grenfell said, I really appreciate that the Archbishop has wholeheartedly apologises for what he could have and should have done differently in 2013. I recognise his commitment over his tenure to really having tried to change safeguarding. I think there's still an awful lot to do, but I do think that builds on some of the changes we've seen over the last 10 years. Asked why she could not give a straight yes or no, to the question of whether the Archbishop should resign, the Bishop said, "I support the Archbishop's apology. I'm glad he's made it." She was asked, should he resign? She didn't say he shouldn't resign. She didn't say he should resign. But that silence was quite telling. Reverend Giles Fraser said in a tweet, "I was beaten at school in a way that many of Smyth's victims were, going to bed with blood-soaked underpants night after night. To say I'm angry about the cover-up in the church doesn't begin to capture it. I think it seems increasingly unlikely that the Archbishop of Canterbury can survive in post, given the growing chorus of calls for his resignation from amongst his own clergy." The Vicar of Charlby and Oxfordshire, Reverend Fergus Butler Galley, wrote in an open letter to the Archbishop posted online, "We will continue to pray for you, but I, for one, will be praying that you will resign. Those things you did and failed to do inflicted so much damage which might never heal. If you will not go for reasons of your own embarrassment or shame, for the love of God and Him alone, go." These are big words. And what's really interesting, there's a fear amongst clergy, and it is true, because people speak to me, of speaking out and saying things. There's a few people that will speak out and say things, but they're also all worried about retribution. And just trying to find an article here on the computer. They're all worried about retribution, what can come back against them. One of the first questions people asking me for the first time, meeting me for the first time, they ask me is, "Are you okay? Have they tried to come after you?" It's quite an interesting question. And so there's a kind of fear. But the amount of clergy now coming out and calling for the resignation, it feels that this is more important. I wouldn't say that they're still not in fear or have that, but this is so important to them that they are saying, "Look, you have to go." There was a post on Ian Paul's blog, Precedent, I think it's called, really good article, again linked down below, but was written by Anonymous. Why do people have to write articles that are anonymous now, or anonymous? People should be able to freely speak, even if it's criticism. Fine, I get people criticizing me. That's their absolute right, whether they're right or whether they're wrong. It's their freedom to do that. How can we be in the church and have a culture where people are afraid to say anything? But over this, I think it's crossed their red line and said, "No, actually, I will speak out, because this is such a huge issue." And it's a big thing to call for an archbishop to resign. But if the archbishop has admitted failing to act, and what would be the same situation for a parish priest in that same situation, but at the parochial level, would they be able to just say, "I apologise, sorry I didn't act back then, and we'll move forward and we'll do better"? A lot of people, including myself, would say absolutely not. Go on X and look what's being said. It's quite interesting. There's also a silence in the bishops, and this was pointed out on X as well. There's absolute silence from the bishops on this. There's no one saying anything. The Making report came out last week, and it's absolutely massive. And some people are speaking into the Making report. I'm not saying that the bishops aren't, but on this issue, it's absolute silence. And what does that say? It feels like there's more day and day a disconnect with the parochial parish priest across the Church of England and the House of Bishops and the archbishops. And what the parochial parish priests are now speaking out about this, but they're saying, "Look, we're not hearing the bishops. When are the bishops going to say, or are you standing together on this?" I know it's a big thing to speak about, but I just wanted to point that out, because people are saying this over on X. The bishops are being very quiet. So I've been putting a few things in context, but I want to put two more things I want to show you. Back in 2023, and I did a video about John Smyth about this. He had retired by that point as Archbishop of York, but he was criticised for his handling of a safeguarding issue. In fact, he was suspended from ministry. And this article from the Church Times back in 2023 says, former Archbishop of York rejects church safeguarding review, in which his handling of an abuse disclosure was criticised. So what happened, so at the time, the Archbishop he had what we call a PTO, a permission to officiate. He was an honorary assistant bishop in the Diocese of York. And because he had failed to act to a non-recent disclosure of abuse while he was Archbishop of York, that PTO was suspended. The article says the independent review commissioned by the Church of England in 2017 and published on Thursday, the 11th of May, concerned the abuse perpetrated by a priest, the late Trevor Devamanikam. Devamanikam raped the Reverend Matthew Innocent when he was 16 in Bradford in 1984. Mr. Innocent brought the original allegation of abuse against Devamanikam, but did not contribute to the review. After disclosing the abuse to the then Bishop of Sheffield, now the Bishop of Oxford, Dr. Stephen Croft, in 2012, Mr. Innocent wrote to Lord Centimede about this and other disclosures. The reviewer, a former director of adults and children's services, Jane Humphreys, writes that as the survivor had said clearly in his letter that he had already disclosed to the Bishop of Sheffield and that the bishop had not acted on this, she cannot see how the Archbishop of York could have believed the Bishop of Sheffield would act on the survivor's disclosures of abuse, given he had not previously. She continues, the Archbishop of York should have sought advice from his diocesan safeguarding advisor at the time as to how to proceed with the letter sent from the survivor. The survivor's allegation that he disclosed his abuse to the Archbishop of York and he did not act on this is substantiated. In his response, Lord Centimede rejects these last points outright. He writes that safeguarding was solely the responsibility of the diocesan bishop and safeguarding officer, and that by responding to the letter with prayers and assurances, he had not failed to act. Lord Centimede gave the same evidence to the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse. He writes, and this was also the conclusion of the internal investigation carried out by the National Safeguarding Team. Miss Humphreys' conclusion that no church law excuses the responsibility of individuals not to act on matters of safeguarding nature is described by Lord Centimede as odd and troubling. He writes, I am saddened that a report that rightly seeks to review the workings of the Church in order to learn lessons has demonstrated a lack of necessary understanding regarding the operation of dispersed authority in the Church of England. Lord Centimede concludes, safeguarding is very important, but it does not trump church law, which is part of the common law of England, and the law is not susceptible to be used as an excuse for exercising the role given to an archbishop. But Lord Centimede was suspended from his ministry because he had received a letter. He had not acted in the right way because it was a safeguarding concern. And so even though he was an archbishop at the time, his ministry was suspended because it was found that he should have acted. So the Bishop of Newcastle, Dr. Helen Ann Hartley, said that having taken appropriate advice, she had required Lord Centimede, Honorary Assistant Bishop of Newcastle Diocese, to step back from active ministry until both the findings and his response can be explored further. This was following the publication of the review and the response of those criticised. The statement said that the decision was fully supported by the current Archbishop of York, the Most Reverend Stephen Cottrell. So that's just one example. An archbishop has got, as I said, something wrong, and back in this time when it was still being investigated, he was suspended from active ministry. But also I just want to bring this into the context of it all. This is back from 2018 on the BBC, where in Chile all 34 bishops offer resignation to Pope over sex abuse scandals. So all the 34 bishops they offered Pope Francis their resignation in the wake of child sex scandal and cover-up. They asked for forgiveness from victims and the church for their grave errors and omissions. Scandal was about Bishop Juan Barros, who is accused of using his position in the Catholic Church to try and block an investigation into his mentor, Catholic priest Fernando Caradima. Caradima was an influential priest who was found guilty by the Vatican of sexually abusing young boys in the 1970s and 80s and sentenced to a lifetime of penitence and prayer. He never faced criminal prosecution in Chile as too much time had passed, even though the year-long investigation had found that the victims' testimonies were truthful and reliable. Why did the bishops offer to quit? It says the bishops offered their resignation by letter after 3 days of crisis talks at the Vatican, during which time the Pope handed them a 10-page document accusing Chile's church hierarchy of negligence in sex abuse cases. Some of the Vatican's investigators' findings were included in the report, according to Chile's T13 television, which acquired a leaked copy. In it, the Pope said he felt ashamed that people have been pressured not to fully investigate child abuse allegations. We are all involved, myself in first instance, and no one can be exempted by looking to shift the problem onto the backs of others, the Pope reportedly wrote. I'm not saying this is exactly the same, but what I wanted to point out in the Catholic Church, all of those bishops, so 34 bishops, saying we have got this wrong. We will put our letter of resignation in, and it's down to the Pope to accept or not, because this we cannot justify what's happened. Like I say, it's not the same here, but I wanted to put that in context for you to think about as well. So, will Justin Welby resign? That's going to be the big question. There is the online petition. It is growing hour by hour. Will he say, as he admitted, I have got things wrong. My position is untenable because of this. I will do the right thing and resign. Or will he say, I've apologised. That is enough. I didn't get it right. We are improving now. And in a few weeks' time, we will hear he is announcing his retirement. If that happens, I believe in what I've seen online, that will just cause further divisions within the Church of England. And that's the last thing at the moment that we want.